All right, good day, everybody. This is the Urbanyeg podcast. I'm Jeff Kelly. We've been wanting to do this for quite some time. It's actually something that Chan and I have been talking about for quite a while. But it was just about, finding the time and finding a location, getting everything set up and ready to go. But yeah, here we are. We're actually at Roundhouse in Allard Hall today. So we got a space here. We're actually in one of their meeting rooms. And we're all set up. Roundhouse is very interesting. It's a co-working space where you can rent some space, and you can rent a table, or you can rent an office. With some of those things, you have certain features that you can get, like the use of a boardroom, or the use of their facilities here. Like they have podcasting equipment. But with that, they also have community. Like they have the community that's here. That's something that's very, very important to them, is actually building that sense of community and being able to look to other people within this space to actually be able to help with whatever you might need. Like there might be somebody who's doing something in social media, and they might be able to help you when you have a conversation with them. You just never know. But yeah, they're all about building a sense of community. So coming here was actually something that we thought would be a good fit. I mean, obviously, the space is nice. It's very nice. It facilitates our needs, but also what they're about is in line with what we're about as well. Mm-hmm. So
can I add to that?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
I'm just this surprise guest here.
This is Chan.
We'll get into that a little bit, but before I forget, I just want to touch on what Jeff is saying there. So Roundhouse is a very, I feel like it's a unique space because everybody's kind of well aware of tech, Startup Edmonton at the top of Mercer Building. And, if you wanted to get into the tech business, you'd go to Startup Edmonton because they're kind of well known as being the tech startup place. And so if you wanted some resources or other people to talk to in the tech field, you would go there. But Roundhouse is also a co-sharing space, but they're focused on social impact. And I don't know of another group, in the city that's focused the same way on that. And so I feel like it's a special place. And that's why it's a good fit for us at urbanyeg, because urbanyeg is, overall focused on that social impact. So that's why we're here.
Right. Absolutely. How did you find out about Roundhouse anyhow?
Through social media. My friend Karina, who owns Henrik Branding Company, she's kind of always posting about Roundhouse. So I figured, hey, I might as well check it out. And when I got here, people are really nice, and it's a nice layout. It's nice and central, and I got to meet a bunch of cool people, and I feel like they're very supportive here of what we do. So I feel like it's a good fit.
Nice. Yeah, I would agree. So the reason why we're here is why we wanted to create a podcast was so that what we could do is we could talk to people who are doing things within this city, within our local community, that you might not know kind of sort of the behind the scenes of that person, like what it took for that person to get where they are. Because a lot of the times when we see people who are successful in whatever field that they are in, we only see them where they're at now. And we don't see all the things that it took for them to get where they are. All the stories, all the struggles, maybe, things that had happened in their lives that were difficult, or even the reason why they chose to do what it is that they're doing now. A lot of times, unless you're really close to that person, like a friend or a family member or things like that, or unless they go out of their way to talk about themselves, which a lot of people who are successful tend not to do, you don't really know that until maybe they reach a certain level of celebrity, I would say. You know what I mean? Like everybody knows Elon Musk and knows a lot about Elon Musk. There's been documentaries made about Elon Musk, things like that, right? But for somebody who's doing creative things or entrepreneurial things here within our own city, well, there's not really, a documentary made about all the people in this city that are making things happen, right? So That's what we'd like to do going forward. We'd like to be able to talk to more people like that, and just get a behind the scenes look, and just kind of accelerate the learning curve for some other people based on some lessons that they had learned that they can maybe share with other people, right? Because I know that that wasn't that initially what you tried, like you wanted to do with Urban Yeg? How did Urban Yeg itself start anyways?
That's a good question. Just before I get into that though, I'll add to what Jeff said. My initial thought for the podcast, why I liked it is I think our angle of it is going to be different than perhaps other podcasts, because Urban Yeg is like, we're not making money. We're a grassroots organization, so we're not concerned with making money. We don't need to feature what's popular, what's sexy, or what's trendy right now. So in that sense, it gives us a little bit more space, to feature who we really want to feature. Whereas I feel like in the past, there's been like magazine articles, maybe other podcasts that feature people, and the heart of it is kind of comes down to like money. They feature people who have maybe made a ton of money. They're influencers in the city, and it's like, well, I feel like, well, you know what? That's great and all. They've already been featured. If you want to know more about X person there,
right,
go to the podcast. It's already been created. But I'm not about to spend my time doing something that has already been done. And we don't. There's nothing governing our agenda. Again, we're not here to make money. So we can do and say whatever the heck we want here, and
well, within reason.
Within reason to what Urban Yeg's values are, right?
Right.
So
we're not going to lose sponsors or anything like that, because they're not you're not bringing in high ticket clients and
exactly
things like
so
that, right?
That's why I feel like this is going to be our approach is going to be a little bit different, and there's something for everybody. You know what? This podcast is not going to be for everybody.
Sure.
And we're not intending that to be the case. This is going to be for the people within the Urban Yeg community who want to listen to us. So that's really it. And we're not going to capture everybody. So, if we just like the whole Urban Yeg community itself, we're not going to capture,
right,
all of the creatives in the
sure,
city. It's like, we want to focus on who kind of shares our passion, who shares our values. And that's really what it comes down to. That's what matters to us.
Right.
So I guess to answer your other question, but maybe I should introduce myself officially first here. My name is Chan, and I started Urban Yeg. This is 3 years ago now. So unless you kind of followed us since the beginning, we don't always get the chance on Instagram to share the story of how Urban Yeg started. So I feel like this is a great opportunity to let you hear from the founder himself. I would say, when I started my photography business a few years ago, more than a few years ago, so call it like 2012, I've always had this desire to give back to people, the community. I want to make my city better. And I'm going to talk about this in a little bit here, but there's a reason why I have that desire to want to give back. So when I got into business, I felt like I didn't want to just make it all about me making money. It's like, I always felt like, you can be successful, you can make money, and you can make time to give back to your community and give back to people, inspire people, and all that's required is some of your time. You don't need to give people money or something to make a difference. You can give them time, you can give them your knowledge. So I guess at the time when I started my business, Vivid Ribbon, I didn't know what that was going to look like. I just had it in the back of my mind, that I wanted to give back, but I didn't know how. And then when I kind of started off my photography journey there, going professional, in 2014, I met up with, I was kind of made aware of a local group here called Creative Edmonton. And, it was led by a woman named Sonia, and I kind of noticed them on Twitter, and what they were about was, helping out the small guy, um, the local businesses that start off in the garage, the basement, making jam,
Right.
making trinkets or something like that, and it's cool watching some of these people that were involved in in the markets that Creative Edmonton put on, and they're like where they are today. And but it was that kind of like, me being involved with them. I volunteered with them, and I got to learn a lot about what they do, and it's like it was nice to see someone who had that same kind of passion to want to help the small guys, the people who don't get that airtime, who might be doing something that's like not hot and trendy and sexy right now. And it's like, to me, that mattered. So yeah, I volunteered with them, and then it kind of sparked something, sparked in me in 2015. This was March, just early March. And it kind of came to me that, you know what, I'm here trying to grow my own Instagram presence. And there was, I was kind of I was doing it alone, and I was a photographer in the city, and like I just felt like I wasn't connected to anybody. I wasn't connected to anybody like I was connected to Creative Edmonton.
I see.
Those folks,
like in the photography community.
Community. So I was just surfing Instagram one day, and I thought like, well, like I saw all this amazing photography under the hashtag YEG, and I was like, well, you know what? I clicked on some images like, oh, look, okay, that person's like, he's a great photographer, she's a great photographer, but like, how come I don't know them? And I felt like, well, there's just no real platform at the time for people to get to know each other. And I thought, well, if there's no platform, it just like this light bulb came on, and I was like, hey, this is the way that I can give back to people. This is the way I can give back to other creatives. This is my platform. This is my outlet. So I thought, okay, I'll be the guy to start urbanyeg. And that's how it was born, March 9th, 2015.
Well, let me just ask you a question. Like at the time you were going into business for yourself, you were putting your time and energy into developing your own business. So how were you able to then, because like you had no idea, I'm sure, like there's no way you could have known that it was going to grow into what it is like now, right?
Right.
So, but how did you, did you hope it was going to turn into something like that? What drove you to continue to put your time and energy into something that was strictly like volunteer, strictly giving back, when you were still at a point where you were trying to create your own business, develop your own brand, and support yourself monetarily? What allowed you to continue to put your focus in terms of time and energy into urbanyeg?
I think it was the feedback that I was getting. So within the first month of starting urbanyeg, I knew that the way to grow a community and build it was to go beyond the digital level, because that was also the problem. Like, when you're following someone, you're following a bunch of people, 1,000 people on Instagram. It's really just on the digital level, and like, do you really know them? Probably not. You just appreciate their photography, but you don't really know them. And so I felt like, well, the real way to build a community is like the face-to-face, one-on-one. So that's how I was like, well, we need to change this, and this is how it's going to start. So within the first month, I announced the first Instameet. And for those of you who don't know, an Instameet, in my mind anyways, it was just a way to, like a very informal way. You choose a time and a place. Our first Instameet was at Churchill Square. I said, okay, like April, it was sometime in April, if you like photography, you want to build, you like want to get to know other people, just come to this low-key event. Just meet at Churchill Square at, I can't remember what time it was, in the afternoon. And like, I promoted like very little, and like 30 people showed up.
Wow.
So when like almost 30 people showed up at your first Instameet, it's like, that's that feedback that I got. That was like, wow, like
Right.
This is something that people want. Because like I think I said this at the panel session, if only like 3 people showed up, I would be like, well,
Yeah.
maybe I'm not doing something right. Maybe this is not what Edmonton wants.
Right.
But when 30 people show up, and when they did show up, everything happened exactly the way that I wanted. It was just low key. People were having fun talking with one another, and they just basically had I guess what, like 29 new friends.
Wow.
And I mean, some people knew each other already, but it was kind of like, it's nice to have 29 new friends.
Yeah.
You know, and just feeling connected. So everything happened the way that I intended. People walked away saying that, you know, they had a great time. So then that's what kind of fueled me to continue doing, to putting in my time for Urban Yeg.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, for me, like, well, how old was the account by the time you did your first Instameet?
Oh,
like,
it was 1 month.
1 month in, right? Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like, I mean, you think about now, like, you gotta really have something going on if you're like 1 month in and people, like, it's not like you're a brand or you're a product or you're like a store, people already know you and you just start an Instagram account. It's like that came out of zero, like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, nobody know who Urban Yeg was.
Right.
Like, it just came out of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and then from there, within 30 days, you got 30 people to show up without like sponsoring, and you know,
I didn't do a ton of promotion.
advertise,
Yeah,
right?
and I didn't ask other people to promote it for me or something like that. So it was, I guess that it happened the best way as possible, which was organically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, well, like you said, that shows very much that that's something that the community wanted.
Yeah,
Something
absolutely.
that the community felt was important and needed. By the time the second Instameet came around, that's when I met you on the street. And at that time, like I was in a place where I was having a rough time, like mentally and emotionally, and just, yeah, I didn't really know very many people. And I just had recently got Instagram. I don't even remember why I downloaded it, but I had just got it, and I was like posting a couple of pictures that I was taking with my phone and whatever. And yeah, I had a lot of things happen in my life, and I was by myself, and I didn't really have very many friends. I didn't really know very many people in this city because for a long time I was isolated, and I would just hang out with the same people when I was working, like as an iron worker or something like that, you know, like, or the military. I was just, you know, just my core, like my group of people like I associated with, and I didn't really have, I suppose, like the sort of thing in my life that I was passionate about, that I wanted to be able to pursue with the same sort of like drive as most people do with other things, right? So yeah, I was like, I guess you would say lost, quote unquote, you know what I mean? And then I just happened to go out down on White Avenue, and at the time you were out there with a group of people wearing, like, I think it was like one of these t-shirts or something. I think it was the purple one, wasn't it?
No, it was white.
Was it white?
It was a very, very first cheaply done screen print or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had no idea. And you and I had been working together
for a couple of years already.
For a couple of years,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it wasn't like you and I weren't, like, we would talk once in a while, but we were just more so like
coworkers.
Yeah, coworkers, you know, we would associate and chat and whatnot, niceties and whatnot, but it wasn't like
We never hung out after work or outside of work.
No, that's right. Yeah. And but yeah, I ran into you on the street with like 30 people around you or whatever the hell it was, you know. And yeah, I was super interested, and you recognized me right away. Like, I recognized you and you recognized me, and you look like I'd like caught you.
There's a story there that there's a story there. And then I guess so I was employed, and my whole thing with being employed was like, I wanted to keep my business, Vivid Ribbon, very hush hush, because I wanted to protect my job.
Right.
It was one of those things where it's like, I didn't want to go into work publicly, like, you know, just letting people know, hey, I started my photography business, Vivid Ribbon, and like, I'm learning new stuff. I'm making money. I'm meeting new people.
Right.
And I just know enough. I knew enough at the time that that this is something, because where I was not the type of place where, you know what, everybody's going to give you a pat on the back and like congratulate you for having a business outside of your work or something. Like, it's the place where, like, you know what, a lot of people didn't like where they were, kind of grouchy, you know, like they were dissatisfied. And it's like, I knew enough that if I said anything, there would be just like resentment and like, just like, and like, I didn't want it to be public out there because I was trying to protect my job, and I was trying to protect my job because, I still had a mortgage to pay. I have a family to take care of, and I all in all, what it came down to was I wanted to leave when I wanted to leave that job, rather than my boss thinking that I wasn't invested in the business and walking me out or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was wise enough to keep my mouth shut at work, and unfortunately, I had to also keep it away from you because I was thinking because I suppose
we didn't really know each other. We didn't
really know each other really know each other. So I didn't know if I could 100% trust you with that information.
Right.
So
that's fair.
Yeah. So so yeah, when we were at work, we would just talk about work, right? So but yeah, here I am. I was at work. I started this photography business. I started Urbanyeg, but I didn't speak a word of it. But when I saw you on the street, there was a moment that it kind of flashed. It kind of caught me off guard because it flashed in my mind. I kid you not. That's do I tell Jeff about Urbanyeg? Do I not?
Yeah.
And I was I really debated it within that short few seconds. But
it's I caught you with your hand in a cookie jar.
Yeah. So, but the reason. So, but I ended up sharing it with you because I knew that you had just gone through a tough time,
right?
And I felt like you needed to be around people that it would be it'd be good for you to be around people.
Yeah.
So I just I called you over and I said, hey, come over here. And I remember you coming over to the group hey guys, what's going on?
That's right. No,
and
everybody turns on because you're standing there talking to everybody, and you're oh hey, it's Jeff.
Yeah.
And everyone turns around, looks at you hi.
Yeah. So.
Hey.
We kind of just continued on doing our kind of our intros, and then it was after our intros and we started the Insta Meet that I explained to Jeff what Urbanyeg was.
Right.
And then that's how I guess Jeff was introduced to Urbanyeg in a very, and that's a very funny but odd way. But I'm glad that I did introduce you to Urbanyeg, and I remember having the conversation. That was a Saturday, I think, maybe Sunday.
So.
But then we met up at work. On the Monday.
That's right.
And I had this conversation with you about you kind of asked me hey, how come you didn't tell me about Urbanyeg? And and you said I didn't know that you had a photography business on the side. And
right.
I explained to you exactly what I just explained to these folks here about protecting my job.
Yeah.
And you
smart.
Yeah. Right. You and I even remember I think at the time I think you I don't know if you 100% believed me. You were saying well, you don't think if you told so and so at our work here that they would be happy for you,
right?
And I said,
well, it was still I was still a shipper receiver. This was still where I was not really as involved in the upper end of that company, so I didn't really understand how the mentality of anything outside the warehouse was. I thought that yeah, sure, that's the mentality of the warehouse, that's the mentality down here, but I'm sure the mentality up at the top of this company would be different. I don't, you know what I mean? So I had a hard time, and it wasn't until I had been promoted that I was okay, I understand what you're talking about now.
Yeah,
but at the time I was
that's right. I remember
what
us
would
in
be the big deal? You're a photographer or whatever.
I remember us
what you do on your own time is your own thing. And
yeah, I remember us in the lunchroom talking about that. And I just remember the look on your face, you don't think if you told so and so that you had a business, they'd be happy for you? And I said, absolutely not. This is not the company that people pat you on the back on, and I just So
right, I learned that.
Yeah. So but actually, you maybe talk about this a little bit later, but that you did. I remember us having a conversation, I guess, many years later, and then you told me, what you said there.
Mm-hmm.
I know what you're saying now.
Mm-hmm.
You fully understood the value of what I was saying. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Right. I couldn't understand your perspective because I wasn't in a position to really understand it other than what you were telling me. And I just had to believe that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until I was in that position myself, because interestingly enough, I decided to do a very similar thing. And after the Insta Meet, because I didn't really know all that many people, and I had really nothing, like not a whole lot to do outside of my work. You know what I mean? The only thing that I had going for me at the time was my 9 to 5 employment. That was really the only thing that I had that I felt like I was, putting myself into, you know what I mean? Like giving value to, that I felt like I was, the only reciprocation I was getting was my paycheck. But for me, it wasn't fulfilling enough, right? It wasn't fulfilling. It just, I didn't see any room to move in anything. And when I came across Urban Yeg, I remembered how much I enjoyed photography when I was a kid. I remember how much I used to travel around with my grandmother and how many pictures I would take and just, go nuts. And I understood that, like, over time, as I grew and, grew up and life started happening, like photography became less and less important to me. I joined the military and I was in the army for almost 8 years. And like during that time, I wasn't really taking that many pictures. Like, I mean, I had a camera phone, right? I would take pictures on my phone, but it wasn't the same sort of, what do you want to say? Like, I didn't get the same sort of excitement out of it as I used to when I was a kid with my camera, like with my phone, right? But when I ran into Urban Yeg and I saw how many people were together and we're all doing photography and we're all like sharing their experiences together, and learning from each other and everything, I was like, okay. I went out and I bought a camera like a week later, and I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, totally, I'm gonna put as much of my free time into developing this as I can, because I don't really have anything else going on and I'm passionate about this, and so I'm just gonna do that. So I bought like a D3200 for like $500 and started like walking the streets for hours on end. I know there was one day that I was out for 7 hours walking. I put over 13,000 actuations, clicks onto my first camera, least. So I was really passionate about it. But as I started developing into photography and I started being more involved in Urban Yeg, well, then that started to shift my focus a little bit more. So like in terms of like where you were thinking when you started into photography, you're like, I'm going to turn this into a business. Like you got to a point where you're like, I'm going to turn this into my career. I started getting to a point where I was like, okay, like being around you and being around other people within the community, I saw that sort of thing was totally possible. It's totally possible. It's a very attainable thing. It's not like impossible, never going to happen. I would have to be special in some sort of way. It's like time and focus and just a supportive community, and that is very possible. And so like, yeah, I started pursuing that, and I got an opportunity to shoot, volunteer for Urban Yeg as to like a way to like test my skill and ability in a realm that somebody would actually value the pictures. Excuse me, outside of myself. Like they were going to use the photographs for marketing material, or just to promote their event and things like that. And that was through those experiences I got more of a taste of what it would mean to like do that as a job, like as a career, as to like trade photography value for income kind of thing. And like being closer to you and seeing you go through that has been able to show me what's possible. And like I said, like through the community, there are other people that are already doing that, and that want to do that. And that support system is huge. I don't think without Urban Yeg, I would not have made the decision to leave my job. I wouldn't have met Karen. I wouldn't have met friends that I've been close with. I would not have gone on my trip around the world with Karen. I like several things. My life has changed because of that one day, like for real. Like, well, for real. Like,
what's crazy is that you look to where you are now, Jeff 2015 when you met up with Instant Meet number 2 versus Jeff now in 2018. So just a little over 3 years later, you can actually, like, I've spent a lot of time with Jeff, and like I guess maybe not other people don't see him the way that I see him, and because they haven't spent the time with him. But I can tell you that like you're just mindset, confidence, everything is different from Jeff 2015 to Jeff now. And, there was a process of change there that it's not something that could be done like within a couple of days or a month or something. I guess the way to put it is like, I feel like you've been a good example of what I had envisioned, not immediately from the start of what, like when I started Urban Yeg, but like as we got into it more, you're a good example of someone who has gotten the value out of Urban Yeg that I've kind of wanted for people. And if I can explain here, you take Jeff 2015, and I took him out to a shoot. What I was doing a lot with him was I wasn't telling him what to do. I was giving Jeff opportunities. And that's what Urban Yeg is. We provide opportunities to like connect with people, to learn, to get better at, the photography. But at the core of it, Urban Yeg is about self-betterment, because if you, I feel like if you can get that down, you can, truly work on yourself, then everything else will follow, because it'll give you the confidence to work on other parts of your life.
I'd agree.
So I took Jeff to this, I offered him an opportunity just to come shoot with me for, I used to shoot for Yeg Fitness magazine here. And there was a shoot with a skater. And this was like early this is probably, I think, a couple months after Jeff got his camera.
Rob Mars?
Yeah, Rob Mars. So you came to the skate park, and right. I just was offering Jeff an opportunity to just like play around. Like, I was the person shooting the skateboarder, so I was the person who had the ultimate responsibility. But like, I just wanted Jeff to be able to like test his skills in shooting a skateboarder, and he said yeah. So he came by, and he shot. We had lots of fun, but I think at the end of it, there was this moment where we're meeting up by your Jeep, and you told me that some bills had come up, money was kind of tight at the moment, and that you were actually thinking about selling your camera.
That's right.
And this was actually maybe the only time I told him not to do something. I told him, I'm like, Jeff, don't sell your camera, like, because if you sold it on like Kijiji, you'd sell, your $500 camera might sell for like $200. Yeah. And like, and what's $200 to you? Like, is that going to make a difference? He said he needed the money. Like, you need the money to fix, to make some repairs on your Jeep. And I thought, like, man, that $200 you're going to get on Kijiji is like not going to go far on your Jeep. So might as well keep the camera, develop your skill, because I knew in the back of my mind that this is what it truly meant. His camera, your camera, was your connection to Urban Yeg. Yeah. Like, it was your, like, because if you didn't have your camera, what reason would you have to like stick around and come to other intimates? You would, like, you know, right? Like, it would just, maybe there were other things, I guess, but
for sure,
but your camera was what would help you develop. And I knew that if you gave that up, that would also close the door to future opportunities, right, for you to learn, for you to get better, for you to have personal, self-development. And so that's why I told you to keep the camera. And I'm glad that you did, because after that day, there were just more opportunities that I asked you to that asked you to go on with me. And right. Like, I think that's really, and like, you came to other instant meets and you got to meet more people. And as you met more people, I think that's what you said, there's other people in the community right now who are doing it. Like, they're great photographers, they're making money, and it opened your eyes more just to see what was possible. So, and I think that's what I wanted for you most, was like, just to be able to see that it was possible, because I just remember where you came from in that moment in time in 2015 where you were. And like I said at the beginning of this podcast, you're like, I think it was important for you to be around people. Yeah. And feel connected and feel connected to people. So I think you kind of touched on, but like, one of my questions I had for you was like, because I know it, but I want the folks who are listening to hear this, is like, maybe talk about the value that you've felt thinking about your last 3 years, the value that you have gained, and just the value of being connected to other people rather than doing it alone. Because imagine you didn't meet Urban Yeg, you wouldn't be coming out with Urban Yeg, right? You would be like doing it all alone. Like you'd be trying to do photography on your own, if it was even like going to be a possibility for you, right? But like, just I want to know in your own words, what do you feel about just the value like that you have received about being connected and knowing other people in Edmonton?
Well, it's huge, right? Like at the time, like I said, I was very much by myself, and I don't know, I didn't really feel like I had a whole lot going on, like in terms of like, I don't know, purpose, meaning, getting something out of what I'm putting into it. But the community through Urban Yeg has actually, like I said, it's changed my life. Like other people being able to support me in what I'm doing, and I can see where they're at and I can support them. You know what I mean? Like some people know something that I don't, and then they're willing to help me with that. And then some people don't know something that I do, and then I'm willing to help them in that. And then we all get to be better for it. But even like I said, like the friends that I've made through Urban Yeg have allowed me to be more confident in myself, have allowed me to just take more risks, I suppose, have opened up to me like a sense of what's possible, not only in like a professional sense, right? But also like in a creative sense, in a social sense. But yeah, like I said, like I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for that social community. Like I wouldn't, like it's not just about liking my photos, it's about me being allowed to be honest about where I'm at, or me being allowed to be like a little bit vulnerable about where I'm at or where I came from. And then having somebody else be like, yeah, you know what, I understand that. Like I had a similar experience, or maybe like, I can't understand that, but I know what it's like to go through something difficult, and I've had a similar experience, and that sort of thing is super important. When I started with Urban Yeg, I was super depressed. Like I was like, my grandmother had passed away. I'd lost my job. I had a relationship fall apart. I was alone. Like I had my family here, sure, but I was living on the other side of the city, and I wasn't close to them. And I was living in a basement apartment, and I didn't really know anybody. And you know what I mean? Like it just felt very isolated, and like we've worked with the city with Scott McKean, and his thing was urban isolation. And I can very much relate to what that feels like. And it's like, sure, you can be on Instagram. Like social media is good, and it formulates connections. But the actual physical, like you're saying, like, getting to know somebody like in person, getting to meet people one-on-one in reality, that is different than just talking to somebody through a screen. And that's the kind of thing that makes you really actually feel connected to other people, feel connected to a community, other than like, because like just doing it through social media doesn't really bridge that gap the same way as you getting up and going out and meeting those people like in person. Mm-hmm. It's different. Like even having a phone call is better, but most of the time nowadays we just have those kind of interactions on social media. But I think things like Urban Yeg being able to like be the facilitator of bridging that gap for people, and being like, okay, well, I know some people online, and I know some people who are like creatives and photographers and whatnot, but I don't actually know them. Like I know them through social media. I kind of know them from a distance. Maybe I've messaged them a few times, but it's a whole different thing to actually go out and like meet them in person and get to know them and like sit across from them and have a conversation. And I think that, like, that is hugely beneficial. Yeah, I think that's helped me a ton. Like in more ways than I can even articulate. I don't like at this moment right now. Well, I don't know, but
I'll maybe jump in here and help with that articulation maybe. But I think what it comes down to is like when you feel like you got friends, that you feel connected to, what happens to your confidence? It goes up. What happens to your self-esteem? It goes up. What happens when I'm talking about good friends here. When you have good friends, what does it do for how you feel about yourself? You feel better about yourself. But think of the opposite. What happens when you're alone? You're sitting alone in your house and you're like, you know what? I don't know anybody in the city. I don't have any real friends. How do you start thinking? You start feeling isolated. What happens to your self-esteem? Well, it kind of starts to go down. And then imagine, so you're not connected to anybody. And then you're on Instagram. You post you post what you think is a great photo.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know, then you get like a negative comment about it. What happens to your confidence? Well, it goes down. What happens to your self-esteem? It goes down. But imagine this now, the flip side of that. So you got your friends that you're connected to, especially who do the same thing that you do. So other photographers. So thinking about the Urban Yeg community. So if you feel connected to these folks, you've gained some confidence, and then that you post that same picture that you thought was good, and you get a negative comment. Is it going to bother you as much? Probably not, because you might say to yourself, you know what? Thanks for your opinion, bro, but I know that I feel like this is a great photo, and
right.
That's it. That's what you just leave it at that. Thanks for your opinion.
Right.
So it just being around people and connecting with people and feeling connected to people, I think is it just provides it just does things for you that it even I find it hard to describe, but it's like you can only know it going through it, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah, and we've all been there though.
Well, I mean, at the time and even now, I was very socially anxious. Not so much now, but definitely before. Taking social risks and putting myself out there, and just standing out in any sort of way, right? Scary, kind of nerve-wracking, right? Don't really feel comfortable with doing that, but there is payoff to that. You know what I mean? There's payoff to that, and through Urban Yeg, I've been able to, I suppose, take more risks socially and get good feedback from individuals who are part of the community, right? Friends, and just gain confidence from that instead of never taking the risk because I'm scared, or being in a place where I don't know anybody and I'm not going to get maybe not negative feedback, but maybe no feedback whatsoever because nobody really knows who I am, right? It's a different thing to take a risk within a supportive group, and I think that's a very important thing. I think that's what I got out of that, and I think that's what I want people to develop themselves. I want people to be able to take risks to develop themselves and to grow as people, because that's the benefit that I've been able to get out of this, and I want to be able to help other people to do that as well, right?
I think what you're describing too is you've, by being involved with Urban Yeg, and contributing to it and getting to know people, you've had a positive experience out of it. And I think that's what I talk to the team about is, when we have Insta meets, our community, when we were talking on Instagram, we want to provide the people who follow Urban Yeg a positive experience. And I'll tell you why. I know people who have told me that they've maybe messaged a local photographer because they were inspired by them, they look up to them, and then when they meet up with that person, they're totally not the person that they thought that they were. That it was a letdown, or they were just totally negative,
right.
And they're left with a bad taste in their mouth, right? This was so you can classify that it was a negative experience. And I know from my own experience, I've seen this and I get messages that negative experience has really hurt people, to the point where they just want to stop going on Instagram. They want to stop reaching out to other photographers because of that negative experience. And that's the opposite of what I want, what we wanted to create with Urban Yeg. When you come to an Urban Yeg Insta Meet, or you're an Urban Yeg community member, we want you leaving feeling like you had a positive experience, that you feel good. You come to events, you feel good afterwards, because
right.
That's what's going to keep you coming back. And that I don't want, you come in Urban Yeg shutting the doors on you developing yourself because like someone said something negative to you. I want you to walk away feeling inspired. Like, hey, you know what? I just made 2 new friends. Now I'm going to go shoot with them outside of like this Instameet. We're going to meet up, and you start developing your creative talents and your skills together.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that's why it's hugely important to have that positive experience. Because, there's just been times I can cite where it really has shut the door for people. And it's like, that's a very sad thing that, I'm not in control of that.
Right.
But you know what? But what Urban Yeg is in control of is a positive experience that like our team provides that, like
Right.
that we instill that into the culture of Urban Yeg. So, and that's so what we're going to do.
Right. That's our goal. Like that's what we want to do. Like I said, like I've gained a lot of benefit from being a part of Urban Yeg. And what I want to do is I want to, with the team, like we're all on the same page on that. We want to facilitate that kind of growth within other people. Like that's what we're about. But also, something we haven't really touched on is like our ability to through that community, our ability to give back to the community outside of Urban Yeg as well, right? So if you are able to like grow and develop as an individual, if you're able to take on more responsibility through that growth and development, then other people are going to benefit from that, right? Like yourself. So you had to go through a whole ton of things personally for you to get into the position where you were going to, pursue photography as a career, to start Urban Yeg, and then to turn around and to turn that into something bigger, both your own business and Urban Yeg, to give back to the community. But like you were saying earlier, the foundation of that personal development, like that personal work, has to be done like first, right? Like, I mean, you got to get to a point, like you got to work on yourself, like you were saying, because then once you have the foundation of that, then other things can come after that aren't so hard, right? So I know for me, like, obviously if this was like 2015 and I just went out and like, let's say I had a bunch of money or whatever, like I had some money and I went out and I bought like a really expensive full frame camera and I bought a bunch of equipment and all of that stuff. And then I was like, yep, I'm going to be a professional photographer. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to be a professional photographer. I have no experience. I have no skill. I have nothing. I have no zero. Well, I don't have the foundation laid yet for me to be able to make that move. Like I'm going to be very like disillusioned about when I get out in the world about what I can expect and be realistic about what I can expect in terms of success if I haven't laid that groundwork. And I think for anything that you do in life, like regardless of if it's like pursuing business or career or whatever, I think laying the groundwork of personal development and growth and having a solid foundation in that and always working on that does translate into like all other aspects of your life. Like you were saying, like being able to go out and do business, being able to start a community, and being able to give back to the community at large, right? So through us, like the people on the team of Urban Yeg developing Urban Yeg as well, like from like more than just yourself, like the other people on the team developing Urban Yeg is building the groundwork and getting that set up in such a way that we can then have a positive experience for people who decide to come to something that we put together, like an Instameet, right? Or like coming to like a panel event or coming to like a workshop that we put on, anything like that. That kind of like development has to be done first. And from that, then you can go ahead and you can give back. But you have to be able to do that work first. And I think that's always kind of like, that's always been the underlying like theme to Urban Yeg has been personal self-development, like getting through personal challenges, mental health, right? I mean, all of those things, because regardless of what you do as a creative, as a business person, as a family member, like anything that you do, that those things are going to be what you have to lean on, right? So
anyone who's listening to this right now, I'm going to tell you a secret. Urbanyeg is not about the pictures. So if you
a little bit,
yeah.
like-
So if you know, maybe like you started following us a month ago or something like that, you know, even a year ago, if then you might from the outside in, you might say like, oh yeah, no, Urbanyeg is great. Like they feature other people's photos, and you know, it's great. It's like, well, at the heart of what Urbanyeg is, like that's only a fraction of what we do. And I think what Jeff is saying is right, that if you spend, I guess, enough time with us, you know, you follow us over the last few years, then you've come to Instameets and you've gotten to really know us, then at the heart of what Urbanyeg is, it's about having that positive experience so that you can continue learning and self-developing, because that what Jeff is saying is right, that if you develop yourself as the foundation, then everything else will just kind of flow through in the right way. That like you know, you if you develop yourself personally, then that confidence is gained. When that confidence is gained, well, guess what? You're going to continue developing your skills in photography, and you're going to be progressing. If you've developed yourself personally, then you can be at a place in your life where you're like, you know what? Life isn't just about me. It's about helping other people. It's about helping other people get there. And then you're in that space where you're like, you know what? I give enough of a shit to go out there and help help enrich the lives of other people. And when you do that, that's the greatest thing you can do for other people. And that's what we're really here for. And it's like, and I can't give you, like, we can't give you that. Like it's something that's like learned and experienced over time.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Right. And well, all anybody else can do is if they're able to is facilitate a space for that to occur. And I think that's what we want to do through Urbanyeg is try to facilitate a space for that sort of thing to occur. Ultimately, it's up to other people, right? It's up to the individual. If there's an opportunity, it's up to them to take advantage of that opportunity and do something with that. But they got to make the decision to start. But all we can do is we can facilitate the place for that. Once somebody has made the decision, we could facilitate a space for people to be able to do that,
mm-hmm.
you know, with other people and support each other. And
yeah, well, you know what I found is, you know what, maybe in your life, I don't know if you're a student right now, like high school student, university student, or you're just like freshly out of school and you're going to work, you might find that you might not have a lot of outlets right now, or places where you can find that positivity or that support system, or you know, a platform that facilitates what Jeff was just describing. But we're glad that you found it here. Like, and we're glad that if you're a part of it, you know, Urbanyeg here, that this will be a place for you that you can have and experience that. So that, like, I guess the way to put it is you can count on us to do that, because that's one of our values, right? So if you're not getting, you know, that elsewhere, like, you know, in your life right now, it's like, well, we're happy to be here. You know, that's why it's nice for you to come out to the Instameets, meet some new people, make some new friends, and experience what Urbanyeg is about, and you know, hopefully you leave feeling inspired and just knowing that this is a place that you can feel welcomed and like connect with other people, and we, you know, leave it at that.
Right. All right. I think that's about our time. I think we got 53 minutes here.
53 minutes.
53 minutes. I think.
Can I outline? I because we didn't get to say this at the beginning, because this is the one thing that I wanted to share with people. I just didn't know when it was because we were kind of going through this, but like,
yeah, it's all good.
Just this one part that I don't get to share with a lot of people.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely, go for it. Absolutely.
So some people ask me, why does it matter to me to give back to Urbanyeg? Like, Urbanyeg is a volunteer thing for me. It's like, yeah, we all don't get paid to do this. And I think Jeff said this just earlier, that like, well, you know, we spend a lot of time putting time and energy into developing Urbanyeg, and it's just like, it doesn't pay us, but why do we do it? And whereas like I could spend that additional that time that was put into Urbanyeg into my own business. Mm-hmm. I could grow my own business.
Yeah.
But why is it that I've chosen to do this? I'll share this with you now because I don't get to share this with many people unless I'm sitting down with you. So I came to Canada as a refugee in the 80s, and so my family is Cambodian, and in the late 80s, if you're not aware, there was a genocide that was happening by a regime called the Khmer Rouge, and these folks they killed 1.7 million people. I actually thought it was like just a million or like when I say just a million, it's like I recently learned that it was 1.7 million people, and so this was at the time, my parents were young. They didn't have us yet, and they knew that it was, hey, if they stayed in that country, that they would be part of that genocide. So they fled north to Thailand, and when they went to Thailand, I guess the UN already had refugee camps set up, so they accepted my parents, and my parents ended up staying on this refugee camp for probably at least 4 years, maybe 4 to 5, and that's where my brother and I were born, in this refugee camp in Thailand. And the interesting part was like we had this opportunity to come to Canada. There was this opening for us to come to Canada, and so it was like my brother, my parents, and I think my grandma, uncle. We came here to Canada, and the thing is, my parents, I don't think they ever went to school like in Cambodia, because over there it's not free like Canada. You have to pay to go to school, and I don't even think they were in the place to be able to do that. They were concerned with the things that they were, they were basically working for the family. So when we came to Canada, my parents didn't speak a word of English. They didn't have an education. I'll say this too. The interesting thing is, like, I don't think they actually knew what Canada was. Like, I don't think geographically they knew like where it was and what it was and what Canada's beliefs and values are. It was just, for them, it was like, hey, we're getting out of here. We're getting out of this refugee camp, and we're going to go to a better place. So, I mean, even to this day, my parents, they don't, like, I don't think they've had a elementary school education. They just, because, when you come to Canada, and you don't speak a word of English, what do? You end up, you end up working at jobs that don't require you maybe to speak, fluent English. And what are those types of jobs? It's going to be labor. So, I have a huge respect for my parents right now for what, they've done. And, all in all, what they've really done for us is, like, they've provided my brothers and myself this opportunity here that, like, a better life than what they would have had, like, than what we would have had in Cambodia. And, when I think about it, and that huge opportunity that was given to us, that, like, other people don't get to have right now. There's other people wanting to get into Canada right now who just, like, based on circumstances, they just don't get that opportunity. But I feel very blessed that I was given that opportunity to come to Canada, and I'm not about to waste that opportunity that was given, to me and my family. And I feel like it was, I have this compelling desire to pay it forward. And so when people ask me, like, oh, why Urbanyeg? Why do you want to give back to people? You could be doing other things. That's my reason, is that I was given an opportunity, and, so the least that I can do is pay it forward. And if I can make someone else's life, if I can enrich someone else's life, if I can make a difference in their life, and all it required me to do was just share my knowledge, give some of my time, then that's what I'm going to do. And so, and that's, so I'm saying, like, that's my story. Like, it comes from within. It's not, the Urbanyeg is not like some PR stunt, for me to make a name for myself, as a matter of fact, I don't, it's like some people don't even know that I'm the founder. And it's like, and it's like, that's okay. That's not the important part. The community is the important part. And, like, the fact that it exists is the important part. So, I mean, I don't give a shit if you're like, Chan is the founder. It's like, so what? No, but the point is, The values that Urbanyeg has right now, they stem from what my beliefs are.
I see.
Yeah. So, there's and I suppose like the last thing I want to say about that, my story there is like, seeing what my parents went through, coming to Canada, this country, not speaking a word of English, but being able to overcome a bunch of challenges to be able to get to where they are today is very inspiring to me. And it shows me that it's very possible. It's very possible to, to have a good life here, to get ahead financially, without having a degree. You don't need a degree. Like you can just do that. And it's like, it was off their hard work. And it's like, and when I look at what they've done, it tells me that, I can do that too. And it's like, I feel like I've taken part of that, like taken that as a piece from them, like that hard work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I guess, and somewhere in there, like my parents had to personally self-develop, be strong, believe that they could get ahead. And that's what I'm trying to share with people here.
Mm.
That's really what it comes down to. And I guess like, well, I have a passion in photography and so do you guys. So the photography was like, it's kind of the way it's the conduit.
That's right. Yeah.
It's my method, my way to get, to be able to share. It's my platform.
Right.
So, and I'm happy to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
All right. Well, thanks so much. This was fun. This was a good time. We're going to do more of these.
We're definitely going to do more of these. And we're going to be interviewing some amazing people. If you also have people that you want to recommend that we chat with, DM us. I think we're also going to have a space for it on our website. So let us know because I think what Jeff has said is right. It's like, we don't know everybody. Like we don't know who you know. So, if there's something like someone has made a big difference in your life, someone who's in Edmonton is doing some really inspiring things that maybe don't get the airtime, then, we're happy to look into it and see if we can interview them.
Yeah, let's broaden the scope of the community, right? Because like we're in the photography doesn't mean that there's other people that aren't into photography. It's like there's value to be added there as well, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's look for some other people. We have some people, I think, don't we? Do we have some ideas about?
We already have a few people lined up. Yeah, but coming in like February, March, we're definitely gonna be looking for some more people. So let us know.
Right on. All right, that's it. Thanks a lot. Thanks for listening to us. If you have anything to add, you can join in the conversation through our website or through Urbanyeg on Instagram. If you have any ideas in terms of how you think we can help grow the community, then you can reach out through email that can be found on urbanyeg.ca, or also you can go to, again, Urbanyeg on Instagram. All right, thanks.